Assessing a lover's intentions like a general reading terrain. Why you must read the battlefield of the heart before you engage. Opening reflection. In the art of war, strategy is never an accident. The generals who win don't just engage with passion, they read the terrain. They understand the subtle dynamics at play before making a move. In love, it's the same. You cannot rush in based on surface attraction alone. You must assess the emotional terrain, the intentions of your partner, and your own positioning. In this episode of Strategic Intimacy, we'll dive into how you can start evaluating the true emotional landscape of your relationships and the importance of understanding where you stand before charging forward. This is more than just a conversation about assessing behavior. It's about understanding who your lover truly is beneath the surface and where your emotional interests align or misalign. 1. The terrain of love. Why most people miss the map. When you're attracted to someone, you're not just looking at the surface. You're intuitively trying to read them, their words, their actions, and in that moment, you're not always seeing the full terrain. Instead, you might be so focused on the emotional attraction that you fail to assess whether the land is actually navigable. When generals enter battle, they don't only look for an immediate threat. They study the lay of the land, where the rivers run, where the hills are, where the forest might hide ambushes. In love, it's the same. You need to understand the emotional landscape of the person you're dealing with. When we fail to read the emotional terrain, we misinterpret signals. We confuse a person's emotional responses as truth without understanding the deeper forces at play. That's how you end up investing deeply in a relationship, only to discover you were on an uneven, unstable path the whole time. 2. The hidden intentions. What lies beneath the surface. Imagine for a moment you're a general in a foreign land. You don't know your enemy's true intentions, but their actions seem cordial. Are they truly interested in peace? Or is this just a strategic move to gain your trust before the strike? In love, people's actions often mask their deeper intentions. They may act in ways that seem loving, but underneath, they might not have the same long-term goals. They may still be deciding whether they are in it for the long haul, or if they are just looking for a temporary distraction. Understanding intentions takes time. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being aware of the difference between affection and emotional alignment. Just because someone cares about you in the moment doesn't mean they're looking at the relationship in the same way you are. You need to assess the full emotional layout of the relationship, just as a general surveys the entire battlefield. The importance of patience. Why you can't rush the process. Patience is the most vital quality a strategist possesses. Rushing into battle without understanding the terrain is a quick way to lose your forces. In the context of love, rushing in without truly understanding your partner's emotional position will only lead to heartbreak and regret. Most people rush into relationships, overwhelmed by attraction and chemistry, before they have the chance to assess the emotional dynamics. They let the feelings of passion lead them, without evaluating whether those emotions are grounded in reality or driven by temporary impulses. To assess the emotional landscape of a relationship, you need time. You need to let the initial passion settle and observe your partner over different situations. Do they show consistency in their affection? How do they behave when there is tension or disagreement? What are their core values, and do those align with yours? These questions can only be answered when you give the relationship time to unfold naturally. 4. Emotional mapping. The key questions to ask yourself. To assess your partner's emotional terrain, you need to ask the right questions, not only about them, but about your own emotional positioning. Do you know where you stand in this relationship, and do you understand what your partner truly wants and needs? Here are some of the essential questions to ask yourself. What is their long-term vision for love? Are they looking for something stable and committed, or is their interest based on the thrill of the moment? How do they handle conflict? Do they communicate openly, or do they withdraw and avoid difficult conversations? What are they avoiding? Sometimes the things someone isn't saying are more telling than what they do express. Are they avoiding deeper emotional intimacy? Do they hold back their feelings? What are their true intentions for you? Are they seeking a partnership based on shared goals and growth, or are they more focused on the short-term emotional rewards? These questions are not just about analyzing the other person. They are about assessing whether the emotional landscape is one you're equipped to navigate with them. Without clarity, you risk entering a relationship blindly, not realizing that you're stepping onto dangerous terrain. Number 5, emotional weapons. How we defend ourselves in relationships. In battle, soldiers arm themselves with weapons to protect themselves and to strengthen their position. In love, our emotional weapons are the defenses we build to protect ourselves from the potential harm of rejection, betrayal, or emotional vulnerability. Some of these weapons are unconscious. They are defense mechanisms we've developed over time. These might be walls we build to prevent ourselves from getting too close, or they might manifest as emotional unavailability. Others might be conscious strategies to manipulate or control the dynamics of the relationship. A true strategist in love doesn't just recognize these defenses in themselves, but also in their partner. By learning to identify and understand these emotional weapons, you can navigate love without unnecessary confrontation or emotional harm. The key here is to create a relationship dynamic where both partners are vulnerable enough to lay down their emotional weapons and engage with each other honestly and openly. This creates the most solid foundation for true emotional intimacy and connection. Number 6, evaluating compatibility. When to move forward and when to withdraw. So, how do you know if the relationship is worth pursuing once you've assessed the emotional terrain? Here's where the strategy comes into play. Once you've assessed the lay of the land, the next step is to determine if it's a battlefield you want to engage in. You need to evaluate whether your partner's emotional position aligns with yours. Are your emotional needs and desires in sync? Do your long-term goals align? Are there too many conflicting interests or emotional roadblocks? The answer to these questions will tell you whether you're on solid ground or if it's time to withdraw. It's not about giving up at the first sign of difficulty. It's about knowing when the emotional dynamics are too misaligned to continue. In war, retreat is sometimes the smartest strategy. In love, if you recognize that the emotional terrain is too unstable, it's better to retreat with dignity than to stay and fight a losing battle. Trust that there will be better terrain ahead. 7. Assessing intentions. Like a general reading terrain. The final key to assessing a lover's intentions is to step back and view them as you would an army before battle. What are their intentions for you and your relationship? What are their goals, and are they realistic? Do their actions and words match their intentions? Are they consistent in their behavior over time? These are critical factors for anyone trying to assess the emotional terrain of a relationship. A general would never rush into battle without understanding the full scope of the situation. Similarly, You shouldn't rush into love without understanding your partner's emotional intentions and the relationship's true potential. Closing reflection. In relationships, as in warfare, strategy requires awareness, clarity, and patience. You cannot simply charge forward based on attraction or desire alone. To win in love, you must understand the terrain, assess your partner's intentions, and know whether you are moving toward a mutually beneficial outcome or walking into emotional landmines. So, as you enter your next romantic engagement, ask yourself, what is the true emotional landscape here? Is this a relationship you're building with clarity, or are you stepping into an emotional fog? Love is not a battlefield to be won at any cost. It is a partnership to be nurtured, assessed, and chosen strategically. If this episode helped you clarify your emotional terrain in love, subscribe for more insightful discussions. Strategic intimacy helps you navigate relationships with power, presence, and clarity. Next episode preview. Next time on Strategic Intimacy, why planning matters in love more than passion. Learn why clear, grounded planning is more important than the rush of early attraction, and how building your emotional future is an act of strategy, not simply passion.